Hi, everyone, and welcome to the BookWidgets Wednesday webinar series. I'm Sheryl, your BookWidgets educational technology specialist, and I'm happy to present to you today, collaborating with your peers in BookWidgets. Quick look at our agenda for the day. We're going to, of course, be taking a deep dive into BookWidgets group, which is where you can collaborate with others. I'll be showing you how to create groups, discover groups, and then of course the collaboration component of creating widgets, sharing them inside groups, as well as finding and taking other widgets that you would like to have from other users. And along the way, we'll have some valuable tips and tricks that you can use as you navigate groups. So let's dive in right away to taking a look at our BookWidgets groups. And the first thing that I would like to talk to you about is creating a group. One of the ways that we can collaborate and build community is by connecting with each other, whether it's in a face-to-face environment or a virtual environment. And that connection is so important. Sometimes we think, how can I use BookWidgets to create that connection? Groups are the perfect place to create those connections. Think about all the times that you share something with a colleague. Do you share with a grade level colleague? Someone down the hall from you that teaches the same thing? Do you have vertical alignment where you're moving from grade level to grade level and you want to share those activities? Groups are the perfect place to do that. And all of us can create a group to share and collaborate. So I want you to think about what kind of groups you would like to share and what materials you would share with them. Now, a couple of tips about your groups. If you're working with a learning management system, such as Smart School, Google Classroom, Teams, or any of the other learning management system that integrates seamlessly with BookWidgets, it can be confusing if you use the same name as your class or group in that learning management system. So our first recommendation to you is to give the group a different name than what is the name of your class or group in your learning management system. When I was in the classroom, one of the things that I always did with my groups is I put the year at the beginning of the group name. And that way I knew these are the widgets that I created in school year 2018-2019 that I may want to reuse. And then these are the widgets that I created for school year 2021-2022. That's just a little hint that I have when I created my groups that makes it easier for others to find my groups. Also, it's great to use an emoji in the group name. Sometimes we're really rushed, and being able to see that emoji, I know that my team is the Falcons, and every time I see a Falcon, I know that that's my group. So using those emojis in your group name is also very helpful. And then finally, in addition to a description of your group, you want to put clear instructions on how the group operates. Are you going to allow others to duplicate widgets? Do you want teachers to place widgets in a specific place? So think about the protocols and the rituals and routines that you have in your school and how you would want to have those instructions in your group. Let's take a quick look at where our groups are. So from our BookWidgets landing page, we're going to select our widgets and navigate down to my groups. Now, you may not have as long of an elevator to go as me. I'm a member of a lot of different groups. So you're just going to find that option, My Groups, and click on that. And when you navigate to My Groups, you're going to see at the top any groups that you're an owner of. We call that an administrator. So any groups that you're administrator, and then of course, any groups that you have joined. So these are groups that you discovered or groups that somebody else told you about. So that's how this page is divided. And I'm going to show you here in my group that I did include that name at the end of the group, the year at the end of the group, and I have those instructions. So I wanted to highlight what I spoke with you about having a good naming convention as well as the instructions in that description. So I think that will help you as you are creating groups and organizing those groups. Continuing to talk about groups, we also have a privacy setting. The privacy setting is for the teachers. It's not for our students, but it's for the teachers. And we have 3 levels of privacy. Public. A public group means that any other BookWidget user can search for your group and join that group and take a look at the widgets. A closed group can be seen by anyone, so it can be discovered and it can be seen by anyone, but the difference between a public group and a closed group is that a closed group requires the teacher to make a request to the administrator to join the group. And then finally, we have the secret group. A secret group is an invite-only group, so it can't be discovered and it can only be accessed through an invitation. And I will show you how to create a public, a closed, and a secret group. You can invite teachers to your group, and I will show you how you can send that invite yourself directly from BookWidgets. And you can also send a link to the group through members and invite members. And don't forget that teachers can always search for groups through the Discover tab. So let's take a look at how we can find our group and those settings. Here I am back in my English Language Arts group, where remember I gave it a name and I have my directions, and you'll see here I can choose the status of this group. So a public group, anybody can find and join, no request necessary. A closed group, anybody can find and request to join. And then of course our secret group, if you had something that you just wanted to share with a few people. After we've created that group, we're going to come down to the second section here where we have members. And using our cogwheel, this is where you can invite members to your group. And then we can generate that role for them automatically. I'll talk about roles in just a minute. And we have a help section here on our roles as well. You click invite, and that user will receive an invitation via their email to join your group. So a quick way on organizing your group and inviting those members to your group. I also want to talk to you about creating folders. Folders are the way that will help you stay organized. If you're just starting in BookWidgets, you may only have a few BookWidgets, but you're going to see once you start collaborating in groups that your widgets will grow and you will have so many awesome widgets to share. Think about the way that you like to work and create your own folder structure. Maybe you want to create them by widget types, or maybe you want to create by content area if you teach different content areas. So it's really important for you to think about how your classroom works, the structure of your school, and how you would like to organize those widgets in folders. If you don't place your widgets in folders, you just end up with a long list of widgets, and sometimes it becomes difficult for you to find the exact widget that you like. So folders are a great way to organize everything for you. We can also discover groups. This is one of my favorite things to do to collaborate and share widgets. By discovering groups, you will be able to see subjects, textbooks, content areas, all sorts of different ways that teachers have created groups, and you may be able to join those groups as well. You can request to join that group if the group is closed. And once you request to join the group, you will be admitted to that group with a specific role. Excuse me. If for some reason you don't get access to a group that you've requested to join, don't hesitate to reach out on our Facebook group so that we can make sure that you are in those groups that you like to be in. Now let's talk a little bit about the roles in each group. I highlighted those briefly, but I want to make sure that we're clear on the roles. The person who creates the group is called an administrator, and an administrator has total control over the group. The administrator can rename the group, create folders, add widgets, delete widgets, move widgets, add members, and delete members. So the administrator is the top level of rights in a BookWidgets group. The administrator assigns people who join the group or people who are added to the group a role. The observer is just that. The observer can duplicate widgets in the group. They can use widgets in their class. After they've duplicated the widget in their own group, they can edit the widget, but they cannot add new widgets to the group, and they cannot create or modify folders. That is the observer role. The contributor has all of the same rights and responsibilities as the observer, but the contributor may do just that, contribute. So they may also add widgets to the group. The editor has all of the roles of the administrator and the contributor, but as well, the editor may be able to move and delete widgets, as well as edit widgets without duplicating them. So it's really important that you choose that editor wisely, because an editor can take that original widget and edit it without duplicating. And then finally, as we discussed, the administrator. And the administrator is the person who will have all of those rights and responsibilities in your group. So let me just show you again where those roles are listed here. You have your observer, contributor, editor, and administrator. So from the lowest level of permissions and rights to the highest level. And if you ever get stuck, you can just click here to see what type of access you would like to give the person. Viewing widgets, adding your own widgets, editing anyone's widgets, or managing the group, the members, the widgets, and the folders. So a helpful hint for you there on how you may be able to choose the right role for the person in your group. Discovering groups, as I said, is one of my favorite things to do. When I was first starting out with BookWidgets in the classroom, I was teaching a new content area, and I was looking for other users who might have some widgets that I could get some ideas from or duplicate from. So a couple of public groups that I would like to highlight for you, and you may have already seen them in my groups listing, is the BookWidgets blog group, Primary Education, and Teaching English. These are public groups, and I'm going to show you how you can join them right now. Another group that I would like to highlight, even though it doesn't have automatic approval, is the Cluedo and Game Sharing group. This is an awesome group that has some wonderful activities, so you can request to join that group as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we're going to find that group. From our landing page on My Widgets, we're going to use our elevator and scroll down and find My Groups. We're going to select My Groups, and I'm going to use that right scroll bar to come all the way to the bottom, and you'll see Discover Groups. And I can search in this tab for a specific content area. So let's say that I was looking for something with math, and notice there's a little slider here, a little elevator slider here. And I have all of these different math groups that I can take a look at and see if I am able to join. So let's say that I was really interested in looking at this math group. I know that it must be either a public or a closed group. And I see that this is a closed group. So then I would make my request to join by clicking the blue bar. The administrator of the group will see my request and decide whether or not they would like to approve me. So I hope that you make sure that you come down to your groups, and the first thing that you look for is the BookWidgets blog, because when we talk about collaboration, I just want you to take a look at all of these different folders. Every time the BookWidgets team posts a blog, any of the widgets in the blog are posted in this group. So if you're looking for ways to collaborate, this is a great group that you can join. Once you join the BookWidgets blog group, you will be able to take a look at the lessons inside each of the folders. So this happens to be all of the art lessons, and you can see that we have a variety of widgets to share with you. The first thing that you want to do when you're interested in a widget is not click here, but come on over and click the show button. And when you select the show button, you're able to say, oh, all right, this is what my widget looks like. And you can decide whether or not this would be a widget that you would like to have in your own widget group. If you decide that widget is something that you would like, then this is where you can duplicate that widget. So just a couple of little tricks. Find that widget that you like, and then come on over to the drop down and click show or click on show. And we'll talk about our other options here as well. The other group that I talked about was the primary education group. And you can see that the primary education group has their emoji here so that you can identify with them quickly and carefully. And this is another really awesome group to join. And you have all of your content areas here that you can take a look at. And we'll talk about these two folders shortly, my clutter folder and my instruction. So I hope that you make sure that you take some time to discover groups that are available to you and that you're able to join those groups and find some awesome widgets that are available. The most important point is that we like that you share widgets. It's not good just to take, but also to share your widgets. And when I first came into the BookWidgets community, I was nervous that my widgets weren't going to be perfect or it wasn't exactly what somebody wanted. But I'm going to tell you, the BookWidgets community is so great, and people were so helpful that now I'm not afraid to share at all. And sometimes I'll even share a widget that I have a question about, that I'm looking for people to help me make my widget a little bit better. So please make sure that not only do you take widgets, but that you also share your widgets. When you're looking to find widgets that you want, we've talked about searching by those folders, but don't forget that you can also use that filter at the top. So let's say in my primary education group, I was looking for something on numbers. I can use my filter box up here and it will search for all of those activities that have number in the title. If I'm looking for a worksheet, I can search for a worksheet, and now you will see that my search has different results because I will have everything that's a worksheet or a split worksheet. Maybe I want to find a hotspot. And once again, I just use that filter to find everything quickly and easily. So that search and filter tool is really handy for you to have. Remember what I said? You're going to click on the show. You're going to take a look at that widget and see if it's something you want. You don't want to go through the process of duplicating something and then be like, this isn't really what I wanted. Don't worry if there's a startup password. You can go ahead and duplicate that widget. And now, after you are ready to duplicate that widget, I want to let you know that you don't have to duplicate them one at a time. Let's go through that process on finding a widget, duplicating it, and I'm going to give you some tips on how you might want to place that widget into your widgets. So let's say that I am in my primary education and I've decided that I want to look at that art activity. I'm going to open up my art folder and I'm going to come over here and duplicate. I've looked at the widget. I know it's what I want to duplicate. But let's say that I want all of these widgets. I can just come over, check off my box, use my cogwheel, and duplicate all of the widgets. So this is a great time saver. If you haven't checked out all of the goodies under your cogwheels, there's such wonderful time savers for you. So I can duplicate all of the widgets at once to avoid all of that extra clicking. In this instance, I'm just going to duplicate one widget so that I can show you the process. So I'm going to come over to my drop-down menu and select duplicate. Now it's super important. You don't want to duplicate the widget here in this group. You want to duplicate that widget into your own group or your own folder. So I'm going to use my back arrow up at the top. I'm going to leave music and arts. I'm going to leave primary education. And now I'm in my dashboard for my widgets. Now I'm going to give you a really cool tool that I learned. I have a folder that I've called duplicated widgets. Anytime I duplicate a widget, the very first place it goes is in my duplicated widgets folder. And now I select duplicate here. And you might wonder, why do I have this duplicated widgets folder? And why do I use it for everything that I duplicate? And the reason that I do is I know now that these are widgets that I need to take a look at, widgets that I may want to modify before I share them. So I just created that folder on my own, and it's a way that I keep myself organized. It might be just as easy for you to place the widget where it belongs if you've created folder by widget types or content areas. But that's just my hint that I use that really works well for me. Super important, as I said, remember, never duplicate the widget in the group that you are borrowing it from. So it's as if you're going to the file cabinet, opening the file cabinet, taking something out and moving it to another file. And then finally, after we have moved our widget and we have it exactly where we want it, I want to remind you to take a look at your general settings. Your general settings are where you can customize everything else that you want to do. So maybe you need to change something. Maybe you want to rechange on a whiteboard the size of your picture. Maybe you want to add directions. So always take a look at your general settings so that you can have an idea of how did the original user set up those general settings and how do I want to set them up. You can change colors, you can change your reward word, and I always like to add instructions for my student. It's a recent addition. I'm going to say a new addition, but the ability to add instructions for your students in any kind of widget is really great. So you can add those instructions here. You'll notice it has the rich text formatting, so you can include audio or video. But before I send that widget out to my students, I always like to look at those general settings to see, are they exactly how I want them to be for my students? How do I want them to submit? Do I want to have directions? All of that. As I said, when we share widgets and when we take widgets, you are able to duplicate one or more widgets at a time. Remember that you want to make sure you place them in a folder. And if you're in your widgets and you're like, oh, there's not a folder here that I really like, you can immediately create a new folder to put that widget in. Remember the roles of the people in each group. You can only share in those groups where you're the contributor, the editor, or the administrator. The observer does not have that capability to share in groups. And always so important, especially if you're a leader at your school site, you want to have that ritual and routine set up where teachers always duplicate so that the original widget is not changed, but their duplicated widget is. It's like going to the copy machine. If I give a colleague a worksheet, I always say to them, please don't write on this worksheet. Please go and make a copy for yourself before you make any changes. And by doing so, you don't have to worry about the widgets that you're sharing being changed by someone else. So always remind everybody, And you might even want to put that into your directions, which we're going to talk about now. Couple more tips and tricks in your group. We've talked about organizing the group and the structure of your folders. Remember my tip of using a school year or a quarter. I have some teachers who use Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So they have all of the grading period widgets in one folder, and then they have them organized by date, by name, or by widget style. I think it's really important that you share that widget with instructions with your collaborators. There's nothing more frustrating than you go to find your widget and it's been changed, it's been moved, or it's been deleted. So setting up those routines as you roll out BookWidgets and you get more people collaborating and creating with you is really important. And something that my colleague Lucy taught me is to create a clutter folder, sort of like a recycle bin. So I never want to delete anybody else's widgets. I'm always worried that if I delete their widget and then they come looking for it, it could be a problem. They'll be unhappy with me, or it was something that they wanted to use right on that day. So I'm going to show you how to create that recycle bin or clutter folder for your widgets that seem to be out of place or you're not sure where they belong, but you really don't want to delete them. So let's hop back into our widgets. And I'm going to go into the primary education group because I know that the primary education group has both the instruction folder and the clutter folder. Let's take a look at the instruction folder. And great news, guess what you can do when you join the primary education group? You can open the instruction folder, pull the drop-down menu, and duplicate it. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. We have everything here for you. Those of you who've come to the Wednesday webinars know my motto is work smarter, not harder. And there it is, just duplicate the instructions. Let's take a look. And there's a good example. Remember how I told you always click on show? If you click here, it says you can't look at the widget. So always click on your show. And here are instructions. These would be instructions not for students. Remember, we're talking about collaborating and creating content, communicating with other teachers in our school or around the world. Here are some instructions that you can show to your your collaborators. So it talks them through exactly how we're going to give and take, share and receive exercises in our group. And we've even contributed a video here. So feel free to duplicate this to use if you think that these instructions will help those people in the groups that you create or the groups that you join. And remember, that's in primary education. Notice the emoji that we use, so it really stands out so people know, all right, this is what I need to do first. And now let's talk about that recycle bin or that clutter bin. So we usually don't want to have anything in here, but if you find something out of place, for example, underneath biology, you see 2 or 3 widgets that aren't in folders, and you're not the administrator of the group, but you are an editor, you would be able to move that to the clutter folder so that if somebody comes back looking for the widget, they would be able to look in the clutter folder, sort of like a recycle bin, and be able to restore that widget. You can choose whatever naming convention you would like for those 2 folders, the instruction folder and the clutter folder. Those are just something that we use on our team. Now, we've talked a little bit about deleting widgets, and there's nothing worse when you accidentally delete one of your own widgets or when a widget is deleted. So I do want to show you how you're able to find a widget in case you have deleted it. So I'm going to come over to My Widgets, and remember our cog wheel here. We're going to pull down that cog wheel, and the 4th item down, go to deleted widgets. Thank goodness, this has saved me more than once. And there you will see your list of widgets. Here's even a folder. and you will see a list of your widgets. And then merely if you want to restore the widget, you would highlight the check mark box and select restore. Once again, you do have the option to do more than one of those widgets, restore selected widgets. So if you're going to use the restore button one at a time, and if you have multiple, then go ahead and select restore selected widgets. Let me tell you, I was so happy when I saw that BookWidgets had a restore, because I had deleted a widget that I had spent a lot of time on, and I thought that I had lost it. So being able to find a widget that you accidentally deleted really is wonderful, even if you only have to use it once or twice. Now, I think as teachers, sometimes we freely give away our materials because we are collaborative. We have a caring community here in BookWidgets, but I also think it's really important that you accept credit for the work that you do and that you ask others to give credit for the work that you do. So the problem is that when you duplicate a widget, the original creator's name immediately changes to your name. So how can we give credit, and how can we take credit for the work that we do and the work that others do? One of the newest additions in BookWidgets is the About tab. You will remember that the About tab is only visible to teachers. Students do not see the About tab. So the About tab is a great place for you to put your name, if you wanted to have a contact information, or if you have any other information about that widget. In this way, even when the widget is duplicated, in the About section will be the original owner's name. Now, that doesn't mean that others can't remove that information, but at least you have information there. And let's take a look at how that would look. I'm going to make a copy of this widget. And when I make a copy of this widget, you'll notice right there in the About section is my colleague Lucy. So I know that my colleague Lucy has created this widget, and I can thank her. I can give her credit if I'm sharing it with somebody else. If you need to edit information in there, of course you can edit it if you wanted to add a school year or what you're using that widget for. But I wanted to highlight for you, because I think it's really great that you can use that About area to give credit for those widgets. So that's where you'll be able to find that in any widget. And I would encourage you as well to make sure that you place your name in your widgets once you start sharing in our community. We've already talked about those deleted widgets, so I think we're good on that. Let's talk about exporting widgets. Did you know that it's possible to export a widget list per folder? And you can do that with just a few quick steps. So the easiest way to export a widget list is to go back to our dashboard. You're probably wondering, why would I want to do that? For me, when I was a department head, I wanted my entire department to know all of the widgets that were available for them to use in class. And so I created a document with all of the widgets for them so that they could see while they were planning what might be available to them. Now, it's super important when you get that exported list that you don't use those links in your learning system, because they will be broken in the learning system and you won't have all of your results the way that you like them in your LMS. So you can use those for reference, but always make sure that you share in your learning management system through the protocols that you have in your learning management system. So let's take a look at how we can export that list. So we're going to come back to our widgets, and we're going to go to that cogwheel. Now you'll see here that I can export a widget list, but I don't think that I want to export an entire list of all of my widgets. So let's say that I just want to export my web quests. So I'm going to come on down to my web quest. I'm going to select export widget list. Now remember, it's just a list. You're not exporting the widget. Now you will see that you have the name of the widget, what kind it is, the short code, the student link, and the teacher link. Just a reminder, we're not going to use these links in our learning management system. They will help you organize and find widgets quickly and easily. And you'll notice that these links are links that you can navigate to. So if you have that list saved as a digital document, then you could navigate right out to that widget. And you'll notice here, that's the teacher link so that you can make a copy in your account. Just want to show you that again. So we're going to go to a folder. We're going to select the cogwheel, export the widgets list, select export, and then you will have all of those links available to you. I hope that you find that it's useful for you to export those lists. Now, you know I've said it before already once today, work smarter, not harder. You do not need ever to copy questions that you've already created in a widget. You can simply import a question from another widget. You can import a series from another widget. And so this made me think, why not create a database of questions that I could use for different widgets? So for example, as I've been teaching world languages over the years, I created a database of questions that I would use about weather. And I could choose a rotating series of questions each year so that my quizzes and my interactive exercises didn't always look the same. Some of my colleagues have even used this to create different widgets for different classes. So having a question database is a really great idea. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to come back to my widgets, and here inside my samples, you see that I have a data bank, and I have a description. This is a data bank of questions to use in other widgets. And when I show this data bank, I can see that I already have lots of different widgets that I can use. So how would I get these widgets into my data bank? I'm going to go ahead and open up my data bank as if I'm creating my questions. I'm going to come up to my cogwheel in the upper right, and you'll notice import from widget. And while I'm here, I can't help but point out from you one of our newest additions, the import from document. We have a tutorial on that if you haven't seen this before, but it's going to be so helpful for you as you create lessons. But we're going to hop right back up here to import from a widget. I'm going to import some questions. So now BookWidget says to me, what widget do you want to import questions from? So I'm going to go ahead and find my quiz. Here are my questions. So I can already see my questions, and I can use this to select all of them, but maybe I don't want to select all of the questions. I just want to import the first 5 questions. Now I'm going to come over to import in the upper right. And when I select preview now, without retyping, here are my other questions. Isn't that a life changer? I love that I don't have to retype everything. So that is how you import questions so that you can use them in other widgets. I think that that will be really helpful for you as you collaborate and you curate lessons. Now, I want to remind you, as I said before, it's super important that you share the love. So make sure that you share your widgets in our Facebook group. I like to share my widgets there, even if I don't think they're perfect, to get feedback from other users. And I promise you that you will always receive comments when you post. If you're not familiar with our Facebook group, it is Teaching with Book Widgets. It's a professional group, and we have so many members, lots of resources that you can use to join. We encourage you to join and add to our group. So everything is right here in the Book Widgets Facebook user group. Of course, if you ever run into a problem or something's not working or you're having difficulties with a widget, our support team is ready and available to help. You can always email support@bookwidgets.com. So we always are available to help you if you are having issues with using one of the tools or one of the options that I showed you in BookWidgets.